Until now, we have seen the normalization for the inputs. Whenever we are taking the concept of the normalization for the inputs, all the input features, even though they are in the different ranges, the input feature x1 may be in different range, the input feature x2 may be in different range, and the input feature x3 may be in the different range. But because of the normalization, these different ranges input features are normalized to the similar kind of the values. So there is no problem in giving the input these kind of values for getting the proper output. We have discussed the normalization of the input features. Now we are extending the concept of the normalization for the input features to normalization of the activation units. The input, whenever we are giving the third layer, example, if we are taking the third layer activation units, the input for this third layer activation units is the second layer activation unit. We are getting the input from the second layer activation unit. Now we want to normalize these outputs of these activation units. We will not normalize directly the outputs of these activation units, but we will normalize the Z values of the corresponding activation units, Z1 and Z2 and Z3. By normalizing the Z values of this layer, this will give a proper output, and this will be a proper even input for the next layer also. So that's we are discussing now. As we already know, when we normalize the input features, first we take the mu for that particular feature. If I am taking feature number 1 x1, I take the all training samples, and by taking all the training samples, now I calculate the mu. If this is a first feature mu, then we call it as a mu1. So x1 is equal to x1 minus mu1, and we divide it with standard deviation. Standard deviation is nothing but square root of variance. What is variance? Sigma square. Sigma square is the summation of all values of that feature. So this feature for all training samples we will take, and summation of squares of this feature is nothing but sigma square. Now x1 is equal to x1 minus mu1 by sigma is the normalized feature. When we take these normalized values, the contour plots when we draw, they are no longer the ellipses, but they will lead to concentric circles. When the contour plots are becoming concentric circles, it is easy for the gradient descent to find the minimum value. Now here you observe, now we are taking a deep neural network. In this deep neural network, we are having 3 layers. In the layer 1, we are having 3 activation units. In the layer 2, we are having 3 activation units. In the layer 3, we are having 3 activation units. Layer 4, 1 activation units. It is a 4-layer deep neural network. Now to normalize, we are normalizing the activation units of A1. In reality, we are normalizing the Zs corresponding to the activation units of the A1 to get the proper output from the activation units of layer 2. Because we are giving the activation units from the layer 1 as inputs, if we normalize the Z values corresponding to the activation units of layer 1, if we properly normalize the Z values, then we properly get the outputs from the activation units of the layer 2. So how to normalize the Z values? First we calculate the mean. After that we calculate the variance sigma square. Now the Z normalized value is equal to Z minus mu by standard deviation sigma. But sometimes, in order to avoid the zero value of the standard deviation, we are taking square root of sigma square, which is nothing but sigma only. We are adding a small positive constant, that is epsilon. Now this is the normalized value of the z. Z is equal to z minus mu by root over sigma square plus epsilon. We are writing this same equation in this format: gamma z normalization plus beta. So these are two another varying parameters. We are taking the original z value, and after the normalization, the new z value is z is equal to gamma original z plus beta. If this beta is equal to mean and gamma is equal to variance, this root over sigma square plus epsilon, then both the original value and our new value both will be equal. Now in this case, the beta is mu, which is controlling the mean, and the gamma is the variance, which is controlling the denominator. Now we have the mean and variance in our control. We can change the mean and variance according to our convenience. Remember, we may not have the chance to change the mean and variance for the input features, but now we have the chance to change the mean and variance for the z values of a particular layer. How this will benefit us? See here, whenever we are taking an activation unit, activation function is important. If we are taking some sigmoid function or tan h function, we always want to use our z value in the linear portion only. Example, after some 4.6, if we take any z value as 10 or 20 or 100, the output is remaining constant, the output value is 1. Similarly, when we take the z value less than minus 4.6, minus 10, minus 20, the output is fixed as 0. So if we take the value of z in between minus 4.6 and 4.6, then for all those values, we will get the output of the sigmoid function, which is a range in between 0 and 1. So we are making our z value to be in this range only. Remember here, the mean here is located exactly at 0, and we have varied the variance. We have taken in such a way that the entire distribution is existing in the linear portion of this sigmoid function. Because of this, we have controlled the mean and variation of the z. So the second layer activation units outputs, which are being fed as inputs to the third layer activation units, we have properly normalized the inputs of the second layer, which are being given to third layer. So here previously, by using the x1 and x2 and x3, we used to calculate z's, and by using these z's, we calculated the activation functions. By using these activation functions, we calculated the z's, and similarly, this process continues until until the last layer. So first, by taking the x input features, and with the parameters w and b, we are calculating the z. By using this z, we are normalizing this z by using beta and gamma. We are giving this normalized z to the activation function, and g of this normalized z is giving the output from the first layer activation function. And similarly, this output from the first layer activation function will be given as input to the second layer activation functions. So from there, the second layer activation functions also they use this normalized value of the Z to give the output A2. This process continues until the last layer. Now remember, previously we have only W and B parameters, but now we have another two parameters, beta and gamma. These beta and gamma are controlling the mean and variance of the particular Z. So beta 1 and Z1 are controlling the mean and variations of the Zs in the first layer, and beta 2 and gamma 2 are controlling the mean and variations of the Zs in the second layer. We can calculate the moving average for this beta and gamma also. The moving average is equal to beta minus alpha dB. So now we can substitute this step along with the gradient descent we use to calculate the W and B. Now we can substitute this also to get the proper value of the beta and the proper value of the gamma. Already we know this beta is the previous moving average and d beta is the present gradient of the beta. Here beta is not the gradient descent with moment. The beta 1 we have taken, and the beta is not the beta 2 we have taken in the RMS propagation. This beta is entirely different. This is how usage of the batch normalization, usage of we are simply normalizing the Z values. Because we have normalized the Z values, now we are getting the proper outputs from the first activation, first layer, from the first layer activation units. We are using these as inputs for the second layer. Again, we are normalizing the Z values of the second layer. And to normalize these Z values, we are using the gamma and beta. Okay, this is how we implement the batch normalization for the hidden layers of the neural network.